A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so, it was before it was November of last year, we had on MSD. And we had a conversation with some of their engineers about this Project Clear and had a conversation about stormwater and flooding and all that type of stuff. And we did it because I had a feeling that it would be interesting and not sexy, but kind of interesting. Well, the response we got was overwhelming. And so we invited them back on the show again to sort of continue on the conversation and answer some more of the questions we got after the show. Bruce Litzinger, an engineer from MSD, welcome back to Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Saad Amir, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start from the beginning because I know this is sort of a somewhat convoluted conversation, difficult to understand, but it is important nonetheless. Let's start from the beginning. MSD is in charge of the wastewater in my home, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So when I flush the toilet, when I use the sink, when I take a shower, MSD is responsible for that water.
That's correct.
Okay. So it goes down my stack, down my sewer lateral, into the sewer. You guys are in charge of it.
Yep, taken to one of our 7 treatment plants. Yep.
What happens to the water that lands on my roof from this storm we had today?
That's a great question. So that's exactly what we're here to talk about. We handle 2 separate services. That's wastewater, which you just described, and stormwater as well. And stormwater is exactly what you think it is, precipitation that reaches the ground. So in some instances, it finds its way into creeks or into the ground. In some instances, when there's a driveway in the way, when there's a roof in the way, when there's a patio in the way, it obviously can't soak in the ground. It has to find its way into the public storm sewer system and inlet. And typically those are, you'll see the inlets that gets piped out to a creek or a stream, and that's how we handle that side of the system. That's separate from the wastewater side of the system. Like you said, it gets taken down your lateral into an MSD sewer, taken to one of our 7 treatment plants where it goes through a cleaning process. That's a separate side of what we do. But what we're here to do outreach on is that stormwater side.
Right. And already going on, Project Clear, is that not the project that is an ongoing project with the feds where you have to separate the stormwater from the wastewater?
So Project Clear is who we are. Project Clear is what we do. Project Clear is MSD. So it's not a name for one singular project. It is more of an initiative to repair and improve St. Louis's aging sewer system and also protect public health and the water environment. And we do that by providing wastewater and stormwater management. So when you think of Project Clear, think of MSD.
Gotcha. Well, what's the program where my downspout goes into my sewer, right? We have to separate that. That's what is that?
Yeah. That's the removal of inflow into the wastewater system. So that's actually a wastewater topic. The wastewater problem is too much flow for the sewer system. The water ends up in people's basements, coming up through your floor drain. So the solution is get the rain out. But we get the rain out, and then it goes into the stormwater system, is properly managed, and not a problem. So the stormwater problems that we're seeing that we don't have funding for, that we'd like to get public awareness about, is things that where you don't have a storm sewer system, you don't have the built system, and if it's a natural system like a creek, it's got problems with erosion, it's not stable, things like that.
Right. But the ongoing efforts of MSD right now to separate the stormwater from the wastewater is an ongoing, 20-year project, is it not?
Yeah, the overall project, we've got projects of all sorts. The downspout disconnects that get the rain out, that was an early phase. We're largely done with that effort, and now we're moving on to building facilities where we need to and things like that based on the success we've had so far. So that will always be a part of what we need to accomplish and what the community needs to do. But largely as far as programming, we've kind of moved to different phases of building facilities.
So this is, so that everybody has it right, this is the stormwater that lands on your roof, on your garage, on your house, on your lawn. And over the course of the last 20, 30, 40 years, things have changed drastically so that places that are flooding now have never flooded before.
Right. And well, it's a lot of things. It's parts of the community that were built up without the storm system that you'd grow to expect to see in new developments today. It's the increase in the severity of storm events we're seeing. So it's really both those things.
How big of a problem? Is there a way to sort of quantify it or to explain to us how big the stormwater problem is?
Well, we largely rely on customer calls, complaints, and when they do that, we create a service request and we go out and investigate. And in the last 10 years, we've had 6,000 of those complaints. But in the last 3 years, we've had 3,500. So the majority in the last 10 years have just come recently. And we had a doubling of those calls from, I believe it was 2019 to 2020.
What are the calls you're getting? What are they saying?
So they will call and say, hey, water ran through my backyard and into my house. Water's flooding my street. Can't get by. They'll call and say, I went out to my backyard and I looked down and I've got a 10-foot cliff down to the creek, and it scares me to death, and my fence just washed into the creek. So there are people that are really seeing property damage or threatened to see property damage.
Do you get phone calls? Is the part of the problem the water coming through my basement? Is that a stormwater problem, or is that a different water problem?
Yeah, that's a good distinction, and we that's a groundwater problem. So generally, Project Clear is not going to address groundwater. If it's a high water table, high groundwater table, and
right.
seeping through the cracks in your basement and coming up through the floor, that's not generally something that we can solve.
That's why it's so confusing, because the water goes into the ground, right? The stormwater goes into the ground, but the groundwater is not the problem, but the groundwater is the problem.
Right.
That's why it's so very confusing.
Yep.
Yeah. For that particular topic, it's more of a sump pump or something like that, drain tile, what they call drain tile that you put around the foundation, and then you pump that into the storm system. So
what about the water that comes through my sewer with the little drain in my basement? That's also not this problem. That's a wastewater backup problem.
That's the wastewater problem. Yeah, that your basement drain should not be connected to the storm system, and it's
Gotcha.
your wastewater.
And so MSD is charged with the wastewater. But you guys are sort of now beginning to have a conversation, and this is why you're on the show. You're beginning to have a conversation about, do you want to be responsible, or should you be responsible for the stormwater? Because right now, you guys have no edict to handle the stormwater problem.
So it's a little bit layered with that. We do have stormwater services right now. What MSD is able to do on the stormwater side is clean, operate, maintain, and repair the existing public storm sewer system. So what exists right now, if you see an inlet collapse, we can go out there and fix that. We also have the funding source for complying with environmental regulations, so like walking creeks, making sure there's no illegal discharges, things like that. But what we don't have a funding source for is making major new improvements or major new additions, capital projects for the public storm sewer system that would solve problems of flooding and erosion. And to kind of hit on that point a little bit more, to quantify how big of a problem this is for the region, in the lead, we when we get these customer calls, we do send our engineers out to identify potential solutions to those issues. So what Bruce was saying, 6,000 stormwater service requests in the last 10 years, we've identified about 500 or a little bit more than 500 projects or solutions to those problems, and those total around $500 million. So it is a regional issue that we're looking at, and that's the issue is the regular routine maintenance and repair. We can do that, but we can't make major new additions or major new improvements. So if there's an area where a storm sewer is necessary in that area, it's a low spot that needs piping underneath, but it doesn't exist, we can't go out there. We don't have a funding source to go out there and build that.
Bruce Litzinger, our guest, along with Saad Amir. Guys, we have a question on the text line. And just to sort of reiterate what we were talking about last hour, the sewer in front of my house with the sewer grate, that is strictly for stormwater, correct?
Correct. not to complicate things too much, but we do have 3 systems. So it's
right.
We have a wastewater system, we have a stormwater system, and in the city of St. Louis, largely it's a combined system. But, yeah, so they'll combine. But that is stormwater.
I was going to say it depends on where you live. But
when you say combined, you're saying that the stormwater and the wastewater commingle at some point in the city?
Correct, in the city.
But aren't you working on that to sort of separate that? Isn't that part of the long-term goal?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we're putting in large storage tunnels and enhanced treatment, and that's part of the wastewater project, and that's permitted through the wastewater system.
Is MSD in St. Charles at all?
No.
No. Just St. Louis City.
St. Louis City,
St. Louis County.
90% of the county out to about Route 109 in Wildwood.
Okay. Now, if I remember my 8th grade science class, water seeks its own level, and liquid takes the shape of its container. Right?
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So long, everybody. Okay. With that being the case, how do you go about solving basic science if we have rivers, we have runoff, we have water flow? It seems like an impossible task to solve the wastewater or the stormwater runoff.
Right. Yes. No, I mean, the only exception to all that you listed was you can pump it. But largely, the issues we see, we put them in 3 categories. You've got regional flooding, and that'd be the big rivers, and that's where you've got gravity. Ultimately, it seeks a level. So like in 93, everything was way up, and
right,
and things, that was the big flood year. And so the big rivers is one, regional flooding is one thing. That is very difficult solution to solve. On rare occasions, we'll work with partners and we can buy out, but it's very expensive, very big deal to implement those types of solutions. So we haven't done a lot of that, but that is the piece there. And then the other thing is the localized flooding. And really normally we've pretty well drained for the most part, but there's a few isolated areas that are flat or maybe even a bowl, and they need a little help getting the water away. And so that's where we would, given the community wills us to be funded, we would put in a storm pipe and then drain that water to a larger system or into the natural waterway like a creek or something like that.
So the science is certainly there, and the solutions are certainly there.
Right.
You're just asking, is there a stomach for it in the community to have it done?
Right. And really the solutions out of those 500 projects I'd mentioned, there's really not any defy science with pumps or major solutions like that built into that. It's largely what I'm talking about, localized flooding issues and creek stabilization. Are
we seeing flooding in places we've never seen flooding before?
Absolutely. I mean, we're getting new requests all the time. It's largely, I think we're fairly built out, but, I think we are seeing areas that, it's definitely not getting better, and it's getting worse as there's more changes in the
storms are happening. They're more severe. They're happening in different times, and they're coming down harder and faster. And we are taking away places for them to go because of development and parking lots and everything else.
Right. We're seeing we've had in that period of middle of 2019 to 2020, we've had, I think it was 6 500-year recurrence events. So we're talking inches and inches in a matter of an hour in a small portion of the district. And statistically, that we have never seen or witnessed that before. But
so the problems are worse today than they've ever been, and tomorrow they're going to be worse than they are today.
Especially if left unaddressed.
Right.
Yeah, presumably the trends are going to continue.
And the solutions that we're talking about, and Bruce can probably chime in on this more than I can, we're talking about creek bank stabilization. We're talking about upsizing the size of sewers. We're talking about putting in sewers where there are none, things like that, green infrastructure, things of that nature. That expand the system capacity, but also on the erosion side, provide that stabilization, whether it's through biostabilization, natural resources, plants with deep rootings to stabilize the creek bank, or hard armor, rocks, concrete, things like that to stabilize the creek bank.
So you're pretty confident that you can certainly fix the problems that we're seeing?
we have the ability to fix
a lot of the
We have the
problems.
authority to do it. We have the expertise to do it. We have the mechanisms to do it. The only thing that's missing is we don't have the public telling us that they want us to do it and they're willing to pay for it, because it has to be funded. So,
right. So which is why you guys are here, to sort of have this conversation.
Exactly.
Now, you guys on the website have this survey that you're asking the community to sort of fill out. It's been out there. Apparently, you've been getting an unbelievable response to the survey. What are some of the things that are surprising you from the survey? What are some of the things you're hearing from the community?
Yeah, we are getting a pretty good response, and I'm pretty sure it's because of you, so thanks for that.
Well, you bet anytime.
So we are in our public outreach phase. Like we keep saying, for us to provide these services, we have to have an established funding source, and that has to be approved by the voters. So right now we're in the public outreach phase. We've been in it since the fall of last year. We've hosted or attended 20 meetings about this. We put out a robust phone survey in addition to the survey that we have on the website. And the survey on the website really asks 5 key questions that we need to answer to determine how the public feels about stormwater services. And all of that is found on our website at msdprojectclear.org/stormwater survey. You'll get taken to a website. It has a bunch of information about what we're talking about, some videos, a previous town hall that we hosted, and then right at the top is the survey with those 5 key questions that give us 5 key answers as to how to move forward.
What's some of the reaction and the response you're getting from some of the
So we're
surveys?
still in the data collection phase at this point, so we're still taking input. But right now, what we are seeing from the numbers that we're getting, we're seeing that a lot of people see this as an issue. People in St. Louis understand that stormwater is a regional issue. And the other main thing that we're seeing is they believe that MSD is in the best position to take care of those problems.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, a large part of our outreach is trying to explain situations that some people are experiencing that are no fault of their own, and it's not something an individual property owner can take care of, and it's not caused by anything an individual property owner was involved in. But when you have hundreds of acres draining to an area, and that area has all kinds of impervious surfaces that drain water off quickly and it goes to a creek or something like that, you know, we've got testimonials and trying to get the word out on how everybody's contributing to problems that impact certain people. And it affects property values and safety in some cases. So we're trying to raise that awareness. And I think people, you know, once they engage, they do recognize that it's a problem and that we're in a good position to be able to solve that problem.
So bottom line is for me, guys, Saad Amir and Bruce Litzinger, what do you want the community to know and what do you want them to do?
Yeah, our main goals with this outreach effort are to ensure that the public understands the nature of stormwater problems within the region, their projected growth, and some of the possible solutions. So that's really what we want people to understand with these outreach efforts. Ultimately, this has to be decided by voters. And the ask that we have right now is to provide answers to that survey that we have at msdprojectclear.org/stormwater survey. And that gives us answers to 5 key questions that'll help us inform how we move forward.
And, yeah, you're not even at the point of what to ask for or how to ask for it. You're just collecting information on the community outreach. Guys, what are you hearing? What do you want? What are you seeing? Let us know so that we can at least compile the data to sort of make an informed decision.
That's absolutely correct.
Yep.
And the website to find out and to fill out this survey.
msdprojectclear.org/stormwater survey.
And it's a very simple survey, right? I mean, it's
There's
not
5 questions.
5 questions. Yeah. msdprojectclear.org/stormwater survey. Simple as that?
Simple as that.
Guys, Bruce Litzinger, Saad Amir, thank you very much. It's a very convoluted, very difficult, but one that's really important.
Absolutely.
Because, as we said, it's getting worse and it's not getting any better. And we keep building in floodplains and we keep, right? And so places that never flooded before, we're now starting to see water build up and back up, and it's a real issue for people. So we appreciate you guys coming in, and I'm glad that people are actually going and taking the survey because, as we said, it's getting a great response from the community. msdprojectclear.org/stormwater survey. Guys, thanks for coming in.
Thanks
for
so much
having us.